My mother passed away a few months after I was born. My biological father, Dan, stayed for the first 6 years of my life, but he ended up remarrying and moving with his new wife across the country, so he left me with my grandparents. Dan would, at best, visit every biannually. He would show up in the morning with some treats and video games for me, talk with me about my life, and then he'd be gone after dinner. Dan's visits became less frequent as I got older. I have many memories of my grandparents calling Dan when they thought I was asleep. They would beg Dan to visit me more or bring me with him to Georgia because a boy needs his father. I still adored Dan and saw him as my hero for many years. However, Dan stopped visiting me after I tried to ruin his marriage with my selfishness. Dan didn't call me to wish me a happy 13th birthday, so I called him over and over, hoping that he just didn't want to wake me up because of the time difference. His wife, Sarah, answered the phone. Sarah was a lovely lady, and I discovered Sarah didn't even know I existed. Dan told Sarah that he'd been visiting California on business and how he was childless. Dan screamed at me later, saying how I deliberately tried to ruin his marriage and how selfish I was to always demand his time. After that point, Dan stopped visiting me, and I viewed him as nothing more than a sperm donor to me. I live a pretty good life. My job is nothing to brag about in terms of being fun, but it's honest work and pays well. My wonderful wife and I have a little girl, Harper, who's the joy of my life. I tried not to think about Dan until I started getting notifications on social media. I didn't know Dan had social media. We also have a very generic surname, so I didn't worry about us finding each other. Dan left comments on almost all of our posts about Harper, from her last day of second grade to the newborn pictures. His remarks all said how beautiful and bright his granddaughter was. I messaged Dan telling him that he has no right to act like Harper's grandfather and to stay away from my family. He replied that Harper was his granddaughter and he gave me life, so I owe him some respect. I warned him again and blocked him. I made a post the other day, and Dan, on a second account, commented how Harper gets her good looks from her grandpa. I replied to Dan that if he wanted to act like my dad, he had until I was 32 to do so, and he has no right to pretend he's some great father and grandfather when he moved across the country and left me with my grandparents at 6. I blocked Dan again. I learned secondhand that Dan is being shamed online and will likely delete his account soon. Family members said that I was right about Dan, but calling him out online was not the mature way to handle things. I realized I could have just blocked him, but for me, you don't get to ditch your kid and then swoop in and act like a family man now that it suits you. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He literally walked out in your life after your mother died when you were 6 years old. Then decades later, he creeps on your social media, commenting about his granddaughter out of nowhere. Then when you told him off and blocked him, he created a new account to start the creeping and stalking again. He screwed around and found out. You've done nothing wrong here. This man pretended you didn't exist for like 26 years of your life, and I'm sorry at how harsh that sounds. So what right does he have now to dance into your life to try and claim your daughter? You ruined his marriage? Nah, mate. He ruined it himself by keeping you a secret from his wife. His beautiful granddaughter? Heck no. He has no claims on your children after disowning you. But people are right. Shaming him online isn't the best use of your time. In your place, I'd go with newspaper ads in his hometown and a short-run billboard campaign. I would also consider a 30-second video detailing how he abandoned his son. By advertising in geolocation around his home and work, a 2-mile radius should do. Use Facebook's ad targeting and do Facebook and Instagram. Lastly, register a URL of his name and put up a website, then fund an AdWords account to keep that site prominent. He can make it all stop by paying his back child support and coming off with some overdue birthday presents. You're not an idiot, OP. You didn't think to do any of this. It would be funny to do that, but I've decided that Dan is not worth another second of my time, especially not another penny from my wallet. Thank you all for your support. My wife and I are now setting our social media to private. If privacy is not a setting on an app, we'll not post any more photos or videos of our daughter. My girlfriend and I have a beautiful baby girl. When we first learned that we were pregnant, we were so scared and we didn't know what to do. When she told her family, they wanted her to get an abortion because they didn't want her to ruin her life and future. They didn't like me dating her, so the news made them hate me even more. My only family is a brother who said that once I became an adult, I wasn't his responsibility anymore. After a week or so, she came to me crying, saying that she wanted to keep the baby, but was scared that I'd run away if she did. I assured her that I wouldn't do it no matter her decision because I love her. We moved in together shortly afterward because she didn't want to stay with her family after they kept trying to change her mind. A few weeks before she gave birth, the family's demeanor towards her completely changed, but they still despised me for getting her pregnant and taking her away. Shortly afterwards, she informed me that our mom would stay with us when the baby was born because we were inexperienced and would need all the help we could get. These past weeks have felt like a nightmare for me because her mom has been treating me like crap and trying to control me. I can't hold my girl because she'd just take her away from me, saying she needs to be fed, changed, or whatever. Sometimes she'd give me a few minutes before taking her away from my hands. If I tried to change the diaper, she'd stop me by saying that I didn't know what I was doing, but still refused to teach me. Whenever I brought this up with my girlfriend and requested that she talks to her, she just told me to stop being unappreciative because her mom was doing so much for us. So I kept my mouth shut most of the time and just went with it. Well, I had a bad day at work. All I was thinking about was holding my daughter. When I came home, my girlfriend's mom was holding her. She refused to hand her over when I asked her by saying that she had just fallen asleep and was going to put her in her crib. Her response added to my anger, so I told her she needed to get out. We got into a huge argument after my girlfriend tried to defend her again. I told her there was no way she would spend another second with us because I couldn't take another day when I wasn't allowed to hold my daughter without her mom's interference. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You gave your girlfriend a chance to fix the issue. She refused, so the next step was to get her mother out. After 5 weeks, the mother really doesn't need to live there anymore anyway. She's destroying your relationship with your girlfriend and your new daughter. You did the right thing. She doesn't like you, as you said, so nothing you would have done or do will fix that. Grandma was straight up alienating OP from his daughter in his own home. Next, she'll convince her daughter to leave with the baby. It's disappointing how quickly the girlfriend turned on OP after how her parents treated her during the pregnancy. I wonder if the sudden change of demeanor, going from chastising and criticizing your girlfriend to suddenly being on her side and helping her, could be seen as a tactic to get the girlfriend back under the family's thumb. I don't think OP did anything wrong in finally putting his foot down, but it makes me wonder what his girlfriend's mother's been saying while OP is at work. The mom is there only to poison the relationship while the girlfriend is vulnerable to hormones. They think the OP is controlling and she needs to come back to get away. Then convince her that she's a bad mom that can't handle raising a child. That's why her mom had to do everything. Next thing you know, they have her giving the baby up for adoption. That's the plan. OP did the right thing. Reassure your girlfriend that she can do this by herself, with you there fully supporting her, and you both will be just fine. My husband and I have been married for 21 years, and we have 3 children, 2 daughters, teens, and a young teen son. My husband and I have always had a good marriage and are very similar in many ways except for one, our taste in names. My husband's always favored a more traditional and classic name, while I preferred a name like my own, more different and out there and modern. When it came to naming our children, there were no names we both liked, so we compromised. My husband named our oldest, I named our second child, and our son was given the first name by my husband and a middle name by me. Our oldest has never liked her name. She asked to change it a few times over the years, asking for a name more like her sister. My husband would tell her how beautiful her name was and how it was meaningful because it represented her family. She said it felt boring and old. In the last 2 years, she's been more open about this and has brought it to our attention many times after. She found a name she loves that she's been using and wants to use it. She recently sat us down and asked that we consider letting her change it before she turns 18 so she can start off her adult life with less paperwork needing to be changed and fewer hoops to jump through. My husband shot it down hard. He told her that she has a beautiful name, and will be thankful for it in a few years when she enters the professional world and wants to be taken seriously. Our daughter pointed out that I never had trouble. He told her that he gave her the name with love and thought and tied her to several family members. When she pressed more, he told her the decision was final. I told her we would discuss it and talk with her again. My husband said no way. Once we were alone, I told him to get over himself, that I understood he loved her name as it is now and had poured love into choosing her name, but he's not the one who has to live with it. And I pointed out that he'll alienate her by refusing point blank even to consider it and to take such a hard stance, which implies quite strongly that even if she changed her name at 18, he would still call her by the name he gave her. He said that's exactly what he would do, and I told him everything I said needed to be emphasized. He said I couldn't talk because all our kids apparently favor my taste in names, and he might as well not have chosen any names or cared at all. I could tell he was upset. However, he felt somewhat personally rejected by it, so I'm not questioning if I'm the idiot. Not the idiot. It's her life, and as long as she doesn't want to be called ketchup or something that'll actually make problems, it's fine. This also doesn't seem to be a mood or something she'll be over in a month. It's never a good idea for one parent to choose the first kid and the other to choose the next one. It's a recipe for people getting upset. I totally get that he's upset since it's the only name he chose, but he isn't the one who has to live with it. He'll be the idiot if he refuses to support your child or denies the name change once they're 18. Hopefully he'll come around. I have a nice normal name that no one spells or says correctly. It's a bit dated and yet very popular, and I've always hated it. I haven't gone by it since I was 8 years old. That's over 2 decades of not using that name. My mom always made such a big deal out of it. It didn't matter to her at all how I felt about my own name. She liked it, so that's that. It's one of the things that pushed us apart, was her weird possessiveness over my name. Parents who do that need to step back and remember, it isn't about them in this situation. And yes, you're absolutely right that your child will go no contact with her father because he's too determined to respect a name rather than to respect a person. My ex and I have a daughter together, pre-tween. She lives with me, but has stayed with her mother for most of the summer break. My daughter returned home earlier this week, and it was revealed that she had gotten some new ear piercings during her stay with her mother. When my daughter left for her mother's, she had 1 earring in each ear, but it was a bit of a shock to see she now had a row of 4 small studs in each lobe. I was upset for many reasons. Not only was this not discussed with me, but her mother knows that I was not too pleased when she took her to get her first piercings done as a baby. I also felt that the multiple piercings looked way too much on her small ears and were really not suitable for when she was out playing. That night when cleaning them, I decided it was best to remove them. The seconds looked like they were already healed, but the third and fourths were freshly pierced and closed up overnight. A couple of days later, my daughter went to visit her mom for a family gathering, and my ex was furious when she discovered I had removed the earrings and let them close. My ex demanded that I reimburse her for the cost, which I refused. My daughter's also upset that she can't wear her new earrings anymore, but I'm not even sure it'll be allowable when school starts. Am I the idiot here? Your ex should have at least informed you that she was getting your daughter's ears pierced again. But you are the idiot because, removing the earrings, you ensured that your daughter had holes drilled into her ears for nothing, since you allowed the holes to close. And you're punishing your daughter because you're angry at what your ex did. You are the idiot. You complained that your ex didn't check in with you, but you didn't check in with her either. What did your daughter want? They're her ears. Respect that. She's not your property. She's her own person, no matter how young. Unless there's a health risk, you don't have the right to make this decision for her. And you need to stop using your kid as a tug-of-war rope. She's a young child, you moron. She also wants to be a princess and skip school. OP is not the idiot, and everyone commenting on this must be under 25 and have no kids, because on what planet is it appropriate for a little kid to have 4 studs in each ear? She's not 17, people. I'm with you. She might ask for an Elsa tattoo next time. This is insane. She's way too young to get earrings. At her age, you can't even sign up to Google, so how would you be able to consent to get ear piercings? What you said earlier about her getting piercings when she was a baby is ridiculous. If anything, your ex should have at least waited until she was a teenager. And anyway, getting piercings is a big thing, and 6 new studs at once without even telling you? Her mom is a clown. My teen son saved up money and bought himself a new PlayStation at the beginning of last month. However, he won't let his twin brother touch it. I understood this in the beginning, but at this point I think he's being ridiculous. He has a job and his brother doesn't. There's no reason not to let his brother play when he's not home. And if by some happenstance his brother somehow breaks it, I told him I'd buy him a new one. The only reason he says his brother can't ever touch it is pure selfishness. As of their fight last night, I told him I would take it away from them if he didn't start sharing. He bought the PlayStation with his money, but it's my TV, my living room, and my electricity. Either he learns to be a part of the family, or he can keep it in his room in a box. Am I the idiot if I tell my older son he doesn't get to play with it unless he learns to share? You are the idiot. He bought it with his own money, and he shouldn't have to share it if he doesn't want to. Buy your younger child their own console. At worst, tell the older kid he needs to buy his own TV and put it in his room, so the console isn't out in the common area, tempting the younger kid. You are the idiot. It's not your teen's job to provide your youngest kid with entertainment. From your responses, I guess you have strict rules in your home and don't buy family gaming consoles based on some principle you have. How very manipulative of you to allow your older son to save up for his own console and then tell him that it's not his alone, but must be shared. Exactly. This is how to get your kid to resent you and his sibling. If OP wanted their sons to have a shared community property console, OP should have either bought it for them or reimbursed the son for something that he worked for and purchased. That would be the only common ground that would be fair. If OP takes the console, they would be stealing. Not the idiot. To me, the important thing here is that you're willing to buy him a new one if something happens to it when his brother's playing. So, given that, and the fact that the little brother wants to play when the older one is working, I think this is a very reasonable stance. Agree. People are saying OP should buy their younger son a new console just seem out of touch with reality to me. The teen indeed bought it with his own money, but buying a new one just because the oldest is being an idiot to the youngest is not right. It's not like the little brother can buy one for himself. Buying a second one is just a waste of money.